Hello everybody. Today we're going to learn how to draft the sleeve. You know, I have the instructions over, the written instructions, I have them over on wonderhowto.com. So that's where you'll get the written instructions. I'll put a link below. Just get a piece of paper, wherever you find a piece. So see what it is it's actually a piece of paper folded in half. It has to be wider than, obviously, your sleeve is going to be, excuse me. So fold that paper exactly in half, and that's your straight edge. When you fold paper in half, you have a straight edge there. So the first measurement we take is you measure, you get your basic bodice, because you want the sleeve to fit into your basic bodice sleeve. So what you do is you take the front of your basic bodice and you measure from this point to this point, you know, so in my case, it's about 8. I'm being very rough about it. And then do the same with the back. So this one looks kind of small actually, but whatever your basic bodice is, which you've drafted, just measure from that point to that point. So take that measurement, then add the two measurements together, you get the average. In my case, it was 11, the total. 11 total. The front and the back measurement, divided by 2 and you get the average. So the folded side has to be on the left, right here. At the top of the paper, starting from the folded edge, draw a horizontal line. That's what we're going to do now. And of course you want your paper to be a little bit bigger than what you're actually going to be using. So here we go. So we got that. That's 1 and that's 2. And now step 5 is that 5? Step 5, we're going to draw the length of the sleeve. So it's got to be perfectly squared straight down. So make sure it's perfectly straight. Now you would actually be using this side here, so that you can make sure it's a perfect square. All right. So that's the measurement from point 2 to point 3. Perfectly at that measurement. That's point 3. And then just close off the rectangle. Perfectly squaring it. Make sure it's lined up. Okay, and that's point 4. All right. Now we have to measure. We're on step 7. Measure from point 1 towards point 2. 2.5 centimeters, which is 1 inch. So just measure along that line, 1 inch in. Okay, right there. That's 0.5. Now we're on step 8. Measure the armholes of your basic bodice. So now you're measuring not from point to point. You're actually going to be measuring, let me show you. You're actually measuring the entire armhole, so you'll need a tape measure. Start with this side, okay. And measure, you know, putting the tape measure along the curve. So you're actually measuring it like this, the actual full measurement. You know, you'll do it more carefully than I'm doing right here. It's just to demonstrate. So keep that number in your head. Do the same for the back bodice. Like that. And add the two together. You could do it in your head, or if you can't remember, you write it down. Subtract 2 centimeters, or 3/4 of an inch, from that measurement. And then divide that number by 2. Using the straight edge ruler, measure from point 5 to the length of that result along this line. Okay, so starting from point 5, that result that you obtained, put one side of that ruler on the point 5, and then move this ruler up and down so that the measurement you calculated exactly touches this line. There we go. And that's point number 6. Okay, now step 10, measure from point 2. Measure from point 2 to point 6. Measure that amount, what you've gotten. And then on this side, measure the same exact amount down on this side, because you want a horizontal line here. All right, so I'm gonna make this a dotted line because it's not a cutting line. Actually, that's not a cutting line either, but that's okay. So it's just a reference line, just so you have it evened out. Okay, now we're on point, this was point 7, where you've measured here. Now we want to get to point 8. Point 8 is, it's going to be along this line here. So measure 8 centimeters up the diagonal line. 8 centimeters, or the equivalent in inches, up this line to get to point 8. And that's right there. That's point number 8. Okay. Now mark inwards to point number 9 with a square ruler. That's this one. Mark down from point 8 2 centimeters, or 3/4 of an inch. This is point 9. So when you use a square ruler, you have to line it. You have to perfectly align it with the line, and then measure down that amount that I said. So measure down and mark that point. That's point number 9. Okay. Now we're on step 13. Down the diagonal, we have to find point number 10. And point number 10 is going to be along that same diagonal line, measured down from point 8 towards point 6, 1.5 centimeters, or half an inch. And that's where we're going to mark, that's point number 10 right here. See that? Now we're going to find point 11. Use the square ruler, mark a line perpendicular to the diagonal, down 1 centimeter. So again, taking number 10 as our beginning point, we'll move down a little bit less than half an inch, 1 centimeter, perfectly squaring it. And that's our point number 11, right there. I'm running out of room here, but that's going to be point 11. The camera turned off. All right, what I was doing is we had to find point A. Starting from point 8, you move up the diagonal line towards point 5 and stop at 5.5 centimeters. So starting at point 8, move up. And mark that point as point A, which is right here. Then to find point B, do the same thing. You move from point A, that's up another 1.5 centimeters. And that's point B. And see, I've marked it here. So you've marked point A, point B. Now we're going to do the front sleeve by connecting the dots. And what I was saying is one of them is for the front sleeve and one of them is for the back sleeve. So that's why I changed colors here. So to connect the dots for the front sleeve, we connect point 1 to 5 to B. So that's 1 to 5 to point B to point 9 to point 6. That's your front sleeve. Then we change colors for the back sleeve because we don't want to mix them up. the sleeve is not symmetrical, so we want to keep them straight. And the back sleeve is 1, 5, A, 11, and 6. And now we have the back sleeve. Okay, then we adjust for the wrist measurement down here. So see, otherwise it would have just been this square. So the wrist measurement, which you've taken, it's half your clenched fist, basically, so that you know you have enough room to get your sleeve in. Mark that point, and we mark that point 12. So now, I guess it doesn't matter because I've already drawn the lines, but so connect point 6 to point 12 with, I did a dotted line because that's not going to be your final cutting line. You just wanted the reference. So I did point 6 to point 12. You can draw a full line, but I just drew a dotted line right up here. Okay, because then you find the midpoint of that line. So that midpoint of the line between 6 and 12 is point 13. Mark it, that's point 13. From point 13, because we want to give the sleeve kind of a nice shape, and this is all in the instructions, but I'm just quickly reviewing what I've done. Has that turned off again? I hope not. Okay. Now it's a long thing to freehand, which is why I use the ruler. You're really supposed to, you can use a French curve and that would make it a little easier for you. You need to connect 6 to 14 to 12 to have a nice sort of shape to your sleeve. I kind of cheat and I will do this in pencil when I'm doing the sleeve because it's so long, the curve is not as noticeable. So I do 6 to 14, I do a straight line in pencil usually, even though now I'm doing it in marker. Then I do 14 to 12, also a straight line. And, you know, if it looks too jagged, you can kind of then, once you have that line, sort of freehand it so that it's a little bit more graceful of a curve. So now you've finished drawing, and your last step is you want to transfer the front sleeve over to the back. So this is the back sleeve, the blue. The front sleeve is the red here, or I said rather green. I said it was blue, it's green. The front sleeve is where it's red. So if you have one of those wheels, it sort of looks like a pizza cutter with spikes on it. You would draw, just follow the line of that sleeve, the red line here, and then straight on down this line, so that the imprint of that is onto the back, and then you can just draw that in. But since I don't have one of those wheels, you could do two things. You can get a really strong ballpoint pen and go over that line very, very hard with your ballpoint pen so that the imprint goes through to the back. Remember, the sleeve is not symmetrical, so use your imagination. You might have something else that I'm not thinking of. I'm using, you know, I can use a pin and maybe press really hard on that line. But the important thing, whatever you do, is that the imprint of the front sleeve appear onto the back. Because now you're going to open this up. See, pressing really hard. Okay, so we don't need these instructions anymore. So now we just unfold the paper. So let's go like this. There, okay. So now, I don't know if you're able to see it, but right here, I see the imprint of the back of the front sleeve. So here we go. This is the front. And just go over those lines. You know, you can freehand, or again, if you want the ruler. So here's the imprint. I can just follow it to finish drawing the sleeve. Now remember, this is also a very slight curve, so you don't necessarily want to, but for example here, you put that point, you know, and you just finish drawing in the rest of the sleeve. Okay. Here, I'm gonna mark the cutting lines now in black so that you don't confuse them. This is for the front, which you've transferred over to here. So ignore that one. You're gonna be cutting on the blue line, which is now black. This is going to match up with this. It doesn't match perfectly. You know, you'll adjust it. Remember, this is just your base pattern, which you end up adjusting. When you have that finalized base pattern, you add it at the very end, you add the seam allowance, always. Okay? Thanks for watching.